This is a sled I made to cut segments for segmented bowls. Uh, and then right after this, and this is a demonstration of how they're cut without turning the saw on. Then there comes a sanding fixture that's made to trim them and shows us how you sand the segments. And then next is a bowl blank, and they're not glued together yet. Uh, I've got 16 pieces of teak and 16 pieces of maple, and you see me gluing them together into individual pieces. And after they're clamped and glued, um, you take four of the 16 and you make them into quarter sections, and then you take two quarter sections and make it into a half section, and then you make two halves into one. And this is the bowl that I'm planning on making. Then I've glued them together. You'll see that they're glued together now into a circle, and I'm trimming the circle on the bandsaw because the blank is a little bit bigger than my lathe will handle. My lathe will handle a maximum of about 12.5 inches, and that's blank is a little bit bigger. After we finish this, I put by the way, I put the blank on a small uh, faceplate, and we'll mount the whole faceplate on the lathe, and then we'll cut this blank into rings, and then the rings will be stacked together. And I've made up a couple of extra blanks that you won't see, and they're already cut. So coming up is the ringmaster, and this ringmaster will cost $400, and I bought this one for $50 on Craigslist and adapted it to my lathe. You can't buy one for my lathe anyway, and it works pretty good. I'm not sure I'm real happy with it. Anyway, it works pretty good. And there's the first ring, and here's a couple of older blanks that I made. I'll use them on another bowl. They're not what I like. And then here's a couple of segments that are made up the normal way. They're individual segments, the first one you saw. And uh, and I don't have a thickness sander, so I'm just using my belt sander. I recently bought a thickness sander, and it should make things better. And here is you take the two half circles I described before, and you sand them flat, and that way you get a better fit between the two half circles. It's almost impossible to cut 16 pieces on the equipment in a wood shop and get them to come out perfect. It works this way. Now we're gluing them together, and you put a little bit of glue on each one of them and you rub them together. Guy on the internet, he takes a little spatula. I took my fingers. My wife wouldn't be very well thrilled with me. She'd love the way that guy did it. And you stick them, rub them together until they get tacky, and then they stick, and it works very well. You don't need any clamps. So this is the technique on that. After we get them glued together, I'll be showing you how they stacked up, and I dry stacked them first, and then I ended up putting them on the bench, and I'd glue one for a half an hour or so, and then stick another one on top of it, and then I think about 10 o'clock at night I got it ready to go. You'll see it. Here's the dry stacking right now we were talking about, just to see how it'll look. And anyway, like I said, I quit at 10 o'clock that night, and I ended up putting them all together like you see, only upside down, and I put a 55-pound anvil on it. And the next morning I came out, and I had one solid chunk of wood, which you'll see in just a moment. Yeah, here it is. This is and next to it is Raj's bowl, the first one I made. And so, yeah, there you see it. It was almost done. I spent a couple hours, maybe 4 hours, trying to glue it back together. I did it once with super glue, and just finally gave up. It was a nice bowl too. Like I said, that's 55 pounds. Old man's getting too old for that. And here's the blank ready to go on the lathe. And on the front side, I fit it to a big plug that I made, and then I bored the center of it out with just a Forstner drill and made one for the back side when I turned it around to do the inside, and it worked out, pretty good. I held this on the lathe, as you'll see right now, with the tailstock, and and I had it fit. It took me a couple of hours, but I got it to where it fit real nice, and that way everything was true with the ring. The little plug that you see me holding in my hand, I ended up using that in the center of Raj's bowl. I turned a circle out of red Paduc and turned a circle for that, and I made a plug for the center of it. And then we're going to start the turning, and it's a little like watching grass grow, except I've speeded this thing up to about, sometimes 4 and 5 times this speed, so it's going real fast. And I've cut as much of old Ed out of there as I can. I should have probably had the camera on the other side, but I didn't set the thing up to take videos of it. So you see me turning the outside of it, roughing it out. Believe me, the roughing's a little bit scary because it could catch and throw off, and it could blow up in my face. And it doesn't hurt, but I got probably 15, 16 hours in that thing now, getting it to where I can put it on the lathe. I'm not 100% happy with this bowl, but it really did turn out pretty nice. You'll see the picture at the end. And still roughing it, and a little more roughing, and it's coming up pretty quick. We're gonna turn it around. I should have sanded it when I had it over here, and I didn't. I don't know why I didn't. I should have sanded this side of it. I didn't. And a little more turning. I think I got the outside done, just about ready. And like I said, I made a plug for the center and turned it around, and then I turned the plug on the lathe to fit the hole I had in it, bolted it onto it, and turned the inside of the lathe. And it's kind of like the outside. This is, you're looking at maybe 6 hours of turning in just a minute or two, and you wouldn't want to watch this thing for 6 hours. Almost done with it, and it's starting to look pretty nice. Really, I'm getting pretty happy with it. And this is the 4th bowl, I guess. Well, 3rd one that survived, and so it's not too bad for somebody that's never done the segmenting turning before. And that's a scraper I'm using to try to clean the inside of it up, and then I'll sand it. I used a power sander on it and hand sanding, and now I'm polishing. It's had 1 coat of lacquer, and I'm polishing it. I put 3 coats of lacquer on it and polished each one with steel wool, and now basically that's finished. I put in another coat, and then after that I polish it 1 more time, and we'll come up very shortly. You'll see the finished bowl. So now here's the inside of the finished bowl and a profile of it. And I think it turned out pretty good for my friend Raj for his wedding.